The circuit Magny Cours in France plays host to the 7th round of the GP2 series for Formula One stars of the future. Welcome to Saturday's opening race of this 2-race per weekend format. I'm Bob Barsha with David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. With a midsummer break behind them, the young hopefuls of GP2 are ready for the second half of the season and a chance to derail the shooting star that has been young Brit Lewis Hamilton. What's going to happen? Here's Peter Windsor with more.
It was mid-season break time whilst the Formula One teams were in their North American swing, so a much-needed 2-day test at Ricard behind them. How do some of the leading protagonists of GP2 see their upcoming races?
I'm very enthusiastic. The car has improved in the last test. We found some bits and pieces that should improve quite a lot, and I'm really, really happy. I think the last mistakes, the last things that happened, I mean, where we know what it was, so we are at the top. The car is very quick, and I'm sure that second half of the season we're going to be always fighting for the top and winning races.
This second half of the season we're going to work based on these 2 wins that we got. We need to work very hard in qualifying, and I'm 4th in the championship, and for sure we can get up there, and we're going to be fighting very hard. I think the team is very well prepared, and also myself.
Second half of the season is upon us. What are your thoughts?
It's come pretty quick, hasn't it? So that first part of the season has been very, very tough for us. We turned things around at Silverstone. It was a good weekend. You know, it really moved me up in the championship. So, you know, that's the way I hope it goes towards the end of the season, and it really has to for me. You know, we're improving all the time, and we're getting the car closer to the front. And you know, I think Silverstone was a good weekend. I think we had a positive test in the middle of the break. You know, hopefully that'll carry through, and we'll find out this weekend.
Well, Lewis, we had a little bit of a break, so we can call this the second half of the season now. Yeah. Thoughts, aspirations, hopes?
To keep the momentum going. You know, we've had such a fantastic season up until now. I need to just keep it going and end up with wrap it up with the GP2 title.
And how do you think it'll go?
I feel really confident it'll go well. You know, still the same team, still the same driver. I've been training really hard the last few weeks, so no, I think we're going to be looking good for the first few races.
And what if Ron Dennis said to you, I want you to race in the German Grand Prix onwards from Hockenheim? How would you feel about that?
I wouldn't want to do it. It's not my... I know it sounds a bit strange, but my job is to stay here and win the GP2 championship, you know. And when I'm doing something, I like to do it and get it over and done with. I don't want to get distracted doing something else, doing some testing, or, you know, I know an opportunity to race 1-1. You can't really turn it down, but I would much prefer to begin next year, you know, do the pre-season testing, get used to the car.
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Meanwhile, Ron Dennis's McLaren is saying that Pedro de la Rosa is, at the moment, only racing for the next few races.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Lewis Hamilton, who leads Nelson Piquet Jr. by 19 points coming into this weekend. Alex Primat of France, another 10 points back. Ernesto Vizo, 10 further points behind, 4th in the championship. There's Frenchman Frank Pereira in his home race. An exciting moment for any young driver. The field is on the grid. They'll be rolling off shortly. We'll be back to bring you the starting grid and turn them loose. The GP2 championship from France. Today on... Welcome back to Magny Cours. The crews have cleared the grid. Final handshakes exchanged. And on this Formula One French Grand Prix weekend, the stars of the GP2 series about to roll off for the first of 2 races this weekend. The long-form Saturday main event with a mandatory pit stop, with Sunday's sprint race to follow. Right now, let's look at the starting grid for today's race. On the pole for the first time in his GP2 career, Argentine Jose Maria Lopez for Supernova. Next to him, German Timo Glock has the iSport International team on the front row for the first time ever.
Row 2, Giorgio Pantano in the first FMS car, who won from pole here in the 2003 Formula 3000 race alongside the current championship leader, Lewis Hamilton, in the first ART car.
We saw Frenchman Frank Pereira stalled on the grid. Moving to row 3, Nelson Piquet Jr., second in points to Lewis Hamilton coming in. He starts next to the racing engineering entry of Irishman Adam Carroll.
In 7th spot, the ART car of Alexander Primat, last year's pole sitter, alongside the iSport International car of Ernesto Vizo, a 2-time pole sitter this year.
On row 5, Frank Pereira, the man who just stalled on the grid. That will eliminate 2 Frenchmen in the top 9. Next to him, Japanese driver Hiroki Yoshimoto, who was second quickest in practice before qualifying, but will grid 10th.
There you see the car being pushed off. Lining up 11th, the Durango of the Brazilian Lucas de Grassi. In 12th spot, the first of the Trident cars of Gianna Marie Baruni, who hasn't finished in the points since winning at Imola 8 races ago.
On row 7, Michael Ammermuller of Germany for Arden International, next to the DAMS entry of Italian Ferdinando Manfredini.
Row 8, the second PK Sports of Alexander Negrão, alongside the second Trident of Andrea Zuba. Both drivers have only scored 4 points each this year.
On row 9, Olivier Pla, the Frenchman with DPR Directive back after a wrist injury at Monaco back in May. Next to him, Italian Luca Filippi for BCN.
Row 10 is all Campos Racing. Felix Portero, who sat on the pole at Silverstone, alongside fellow Spaniard Adrian Baez, who finished 3rd in Spain at the season opener, has only scored 1 point since.
On row 11, Neil Yanni, the Swiss for Arden International, doing double duty as a Friday Formula One test driver, as well as his GP2 responsibilities. Next to him, Javier Villa of Spain for Racing Engineering.
23rd spot, Farrell Forzi from Malaysia, who's the pole sitter's teammate, and next to Clivio Piccioni in the second Dave Price racing machine. Only the 3rd time he's been this far back in the grid.
And on the 13th and final row, Sergio Hernandez of Spain for the Durango team. Next to him, Turk Jason Tahinci for SFMS International, the team owned by Renault Formula One star Giancarlo Fisichella. A very hot day, temperatures in the mid-90s, track temps well above 100. The field is coming set. We'll be back for the lights. Round 7 of the GP2 Championship. Back at Magny Cours, there's pole sitter Jose Maria Lopez. There's race director Charlie Whiting, about to set the lights in motion for round 7 of the GP2 season here on Speed.
Good crowd on hand after the qualifying for the Formula One just a few moments ago.
There's the medical car at the back. Here come the lights. Lopez on the left, good start. Timo Glock. Tire smoke from him. It is Lopez. Oh, great start from Giorgio Pantano with the red and white car sliding into second. Glock drops to 3rd.
Alexander Primat moving up, and there goes Adam Carroll down the inside of Lewis Hamilton, who's dropping back. Started 4th, he's now back to 6th.
Oh, we got a car off in the Estoril corner, well at the back.
Now, remember, these tyres are going to be cold. They have to be careful on that dive down towards the tight Adelaide hairpin.
Oh, they all spread out.
Yeah.
Might have been Yoshimoto lighting him up. Oh, contact. Lewis Hamilton into the back of Adam Carroll, I believe.
Adam Carroll, who had overtaken him at Estoril after that start, gets bunted by Lewis Hamilton. Don't see any damage yet. Is there damage? Ooh.
Oh, Nelson Piquet Jr. losing positions. He started 5th. He's back around 8th, I think. Is that the ART Grand Prix team calling for a pit stop?
Now let's have another look at it, kids. You have to be so careful. They've got to break up. You've got to hit the brakes to get around that, and the guys behind have got to pay attention. It's so easy to get it all wrong down there, especially on these cold tyres.
Terrific concertina effect. The ART Grand Prix team here looking for a pit stop from, obviously one assumes, Lewis Hamilton.
Right, and you saw bits of debris. I wonder if he got that right rear tire of Adam Carroll's car. Oh boy, these GP2 drivers don't get a lot of practice time racing with the Formula One circus every weekend. So judging that braking distance in the heat of battle on lap 1 down in the Adelaide hairpin, very difficult.
And everybody's sliding around a lot. Still got those cold tires warming up now after 1 lap.
Streaming through Estoril again, the field beginning to spread out.
Oh, look at Carroll's rear wing.
Right there at the bottom of your screen.
Right there at the bottom of his car. Looks like
Yes, exactly.
Sadly deranged. Still jostling for position as they swoop down to the Adelaide hairpin for the 2nd time.
So the 4th and 6th place starters will both be headed for the pit lane.
Oh, boys, you've just got it wrong, lap 1.
Oh, no.
Learn by your mistake.
Ferruz Fauzi into Andreas Zuber. I don't know what Fauzi was thinking. Take a look at this.
I mean, he's going 25 mile an hour quicker than anybody else. Boom.
Ow.
And just missed that Dave Price racing car. Didn't roll back into it. I thought he would. Look at him, down the inside.
That was never in 1,000 years going to come off.
Wow. I'll be amazed if the stewards don't penalize Ferruz Fauzi. I mean, that was completely out of control. But he has to know nobody over on the left side on the turn-in is going to see him rocketing down the inside. If he can't get stopped, and as you guys say, he had no hope of stopping, There was nothing good going to come of that situation. Nevertheless, the race goes on.
There's Hamilton into the pit. Nose change after that collision on the first dive down towards the Adelaide hairpin. It's difficult to change the nose on these cars because see how they have to lift that carbon panel up. Well, on these cars, the dampers, the shockers are mounted underneath there, and the roll bars, so it's very difficult. It's not like an F1 car, which is a much slicker operation to change.
I've never seen that on any form of racing car. The shock cover actually leans out over the nose, so you have to lift it up in order to change the nose.
Yeah, it's a poor design.
Wow, wild opening laps here at Magny Cours. The order is Lopez, Pantano, Glock, then Primat, Viso, Piquet Jr., Adam Carroll. Lewis Hamilton made the pit stop. We'll have to see where he rejoins.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton paying the price there for a dodgy start. Didn't make a very good start. Slipped back to the field, then tried to pick it all up down the hairpin. The classic.
Hands are off the steering wheel. I think something broke on the car.
I think it did. I thought for a moment it just the shock of hitting the curb just ripped his hand from the wheel, but I think something broke.
Yeah, you can see him then fighting with the steering wheel, but there's just no reaction from the steering.
Oof. Glock chasing Pantano for second. Of course, Giorgio Pantano with Formula One experience and has raced open wheelers at the highest level in the United States, so the Italian is very familiar to American fans.
This guy's going to have to be careful through that last chicane. We're talking about it in the Formula One broadcast yesterday, that the carbon fiber suspension. Let's have another look at the start here.
There's Hamilton. I'm afraid he's made some very poor starts this year. He's made a couple of good ones, but he's had some very poor starts, slipping way back down the field there.
Look at him scattered 5, 6 wide. Ooh.
It's very wide, and you funnel into this grand curve, which is not wide.
The car parked to the left. Andreas Zuber's Trident Racing entry. Boy, you're right about that sliding around, Steve.
Yeah.
This is that 180-degree curve. It's a very tight old curve that you enter it fast, you brake on the way in, a lot of locking up on the left fronts as you go in there.
Yeah, Timo Glock has gotten by Pantano. That was the car I was watching sliding, so whatever it is, it's not bothering Timo Glock right now. This is a 41-lap race with a mandatory pit stop. Here's a replay of Glock getting Pantano in the Adelaide hairpin.
Yeah, that's
very nicely done.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton rejoined back in 22nd spot, so the points leader has got a lot of ground to make up. Piquet Jr. second in points by 19 to Hamilton coming in, currently 6th.
Boy, there was a lot of steering input going into the car.
Oh, and smoke out the back.
Would I like to see that?
These are 4-liter V8 engines with a single 8-into-1 exhaust, so it's hard to tell which side of the engine is stricken, but maybe it's a moot point anyway. The Pla's car. Its sponsorship from Japanese company Direxu has come into question this weekend. They also sponsor the McLaren Formula One team. There was some thinking that
you could hear the thing juddering on the side.
Yeah, and he almost lost a position.
He left his braking a bit late, I think, and outfooled himself.
Anyway, apparently the story goes the directive sponsorship was to have gone in full force to one of the new teams in Formula One, but the team Directive wanted to sponsor did not win the 12th and final slot on the 07 Formula One grid that went to the ProDrive organization, so that the Japanese may be thinking about pulling their sponsorship entirely, which would be a huge blow to this DPR operation.
Well, it would be, yeah. Dave Price Racing has had some ups and downs over the years, but old Dave stuck it out. He's been around in racing now in all sorts of positions for 20-odd years or more.
Well, look at Baez behind there, just squirming under acceleration.
Right behind him is Alex Potiro.
A very, very hot day. And the tires are suffering for it. It'll be interesting to see which tires they change. Now, typically in the past, we've seen them go for the rears only. And that means the front end gets pretty cantankerous.
See Olivier Blas there, he outbraked himself there, went super wide.
Yep. Baez had a shot at him, but couldn't quite get on the go button soon enough. This is for third. Pantano and Premat.
Premat needs to score points badly because he's trailing behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who is now down in 21st position and pretty much out of this race. But if he can pull his way up to 8th, of course, he'd start on the pole tomorrow.
Well, exactly. The top 8 start the Sunday sprint finale in reverse order. And while 8 positions pick up points on Saturday, only 6 positions are awarded on Sunday in the sprint race.
There's a lot of concern about overheating. Bob, you were saying at the top of the show how hot it is here, and it's certainly affecting the grip of the tyres as well. And again, just watching the drivers get into the machines and the mechanics working on the cars, there's a lot of dry ice being pumped in behind the radiators and panels being taken off the car as well to try and increase the cooling around these cars. It was a weak point on the chassis design last year. They worked on it a lot over the winter and in testing, but it's certainly given them concern here as well. I wonder whether or not that was related to that little puff of smoke we saw coming out of the engine earlier on, overheating.
You saw Hamilton set the fast lap, his name in purple on the timing screens, but he's only picked up 1 more spot. So in the 3 laps since he rejoined, he's gone from 22nd only to 20th.
And Pereira, who's in front of him, is 19th. He started 9th, so of course he had that. This
is Piquet Jr.
at the beginning of the race.
Piquet Jr. attacking Ernesto Vizo for 5th.
And Piquet needs to score as many points as he possibly can today if he wants to make any ground up on Lewis Hamilton, which obviously at the moment he's set to do. Pretty much so, with Lewis Hamilton floundering down there in 20th spot.
There could be an 11-point swing in the championship. Remember, the gap is only 19. If Piquet can come forward and win and pick up fast lap, at that point currently is in the hands of Lewis Hamilton. Oh, who's off and on? Felix Portero,
who was lying 13th.
and he will no doubt lose at least 1 spot. Oh,
we get another
that
look
was a
at
lot bigger spin than it looked. He'll lose all kinds of track positions.
Well, despite that thunderstorm last night, the ground looks pretty dry.
I was just thinking that. Look how dry it is here.
Yeah. It's very parched. This country, when we have aerial shots, it looks very parched.
Of course, it's very dry, which makes it a great winemaking region.
Wow.
Piquet makes his pit stop early. He came in 6th. A strategic move, as he couldn't get around Ernesto Vizo. Let's see where he rejoins. The order ahead: Lopez, Glock, Pantano, Premat, and Vizo in the top 5. Also saw Michael Lammermuller in the pit lane from 15th. He's an interesting story. The young German who came out drums and guns at the beginning of the season, looked like he was going to take the series by storm, and then his season just rolled off the table. He hasn't been much of a factor since about round 3, with at least 1 big accident. Jose Maria Lopez remains the race leader. We'll take a break and return with more of round 7 of the GP2 season here on Speed. Welcome back to France on a very hot afternoon as the stars of the GP2 championship contest the first of 2 races on the 7th weekend of the season. Bob Varsha, Steve Matchett, David Hobbs with you. There you see the running order through the top 8. If that were the finish order, they would start in the reverse, meaning Manfardini would be on pole for Sunday's sprint race, but we're a long way from there. Just 8 laps of the 41 in this race complete. Chaotic. That was Portero.
And Portero, one of those guys who was on the grid taking a lot of body work off the car to help with the cooling. And going through that gravel is going to fill the radiators up. Won't help that situation at all.
Javier Villa off and on. Field beginning to string out a little bit. It was a crazy start in which runaway championship leader coming in, Lewis Hamilton, got into the back of another car, had to pit for a nose change, fell all the way back to 22nd. He is now only 20th, although he has set the fast lap of the race and is in position to pick up a point for that.
Well, he's 3.5 seconds behind Frank Pereira, who had that stall on the grid, and he's just not making any ground on him at all, in spite of doing some very good times.
Now, I have to remember there is a mandatory pit stop, Bob, as you said. They have to come in and changed tyres during this race at least once. But I was trying to watch during the Hamilton pit stop when he was coming in for that nose replacement after that first lap shunt down into Adelaide, and I don't believe he changed tyres.
Fernando Manfredini has pitted from 9th.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say it would be an advantage because obviously on lap 1, then you're trying to push the tyres so far, even if it's a brand new set. It's very difficult to say you'd have the performance in the tyres towards the end of the race, but they did not change tyres. I don't believe, anyway. It is a difficult compromise that Bridgestone have had for this race here. We believe they're using a medium compound out of their soft, medium, hard range. All the teams, all the drivers having to use the same compounded tyre in construction, chosen by Bridgestone. But it's very difficult around here because you have such a lot of lateral load into Estoril and the Grand Curve and that run down to Adelaide. So you want to try and use a soft tyre, but too soft and it just wears away so fast. The degradation is pretty steep here.
You can see that in some of the corners where they're leaving big streaks of rubber as they slide. There's the race leader, Jose Maria Lopez, who started from his first career GP2 pole. Looks like it'll be rears only for the Argentine driver. Pantano and Primat pit behind him. Moments ago, we saw Michael Ammermuller in the pit lane. That was not a stop. That was a drive-through penalty for a jump start. There's Primat. So that's first, third, and fourth all pitting on that lap. Yashimoto also pits. There's Piquet Jr.,
who's already stopped.
Right.
So he picked up a spot there on that pit stop coming out in front of Primat.
But he still runs out of the points, does the son of the three-time world champion Nelson Piquet.
Primat thinking about going down the inside of Adelaide, has second thoughts.
10 laps complete.
So Piquet is in 12th spot, so Primat must be in 13th after that stop.
Yeah, I think we've got a shuttle due to the pit stops.
Yeah.
Now, there you go. Glock moves to the lead with Viso second, Degrassi third. Piquet up into 7th and Primat 8th. That's the battle we're watching. So Piquet in a good position right now. He is the best placed of the drivers who have made their stops. He'll have to move hard so that when those ahead of him stop, he can take over the race lead. Oops, who we got off here? No, Felix Portero again. His team owned by former Spanish Formula One driver Adrian Campos. Hear that distinctive 4-liter V8 engine now.
Now Lopez, look at the mirror on Lopez. Oh, it's gone. I just lost the shot there. Look at the mirror on the right-hand side of Lopez's chassis. You see it's been deranged. Here it is at the pit stop right here. Somebody knocked it or it's just come loose. The locating nut here has come loose or something. I saw it in the pit stop. It didn't seem quite right, but
good eyes.
So Lopez is already struggling now. Obviously, the right-hand mirror is completely useless to him on the car.
It may be there so you can watch the tread on the, or the lack of tread on the inside of his right-hand side.
Well, maybe.
Meanwhile, race leader Timo Glock and second place Ernesto Viso have pitted. Very short pit lane here at Magny Cours. You can pit and get out without losing an awful lot of time. You see the current order. Lucas Degrassi goes to the point. Alex Negrão second. Olivier Pla third. Then Timo Glock takes over from Piquet Jr. as the best placed stopper.
And Bob, you were right in your prediction about them choosing not to change the front tyres. And again, this is another classic track. It produces so much understeer in the car. I'm just amazed that they choose not to do that.
And we see it over and over.
Yeah.
What's happening here? This is a look at, oops, nothing in particular. I guess Hamilton coming forward. Hamilton now shown in 19th, so he's picking up spots, but way too slowly. Oh. Boy, oh Oh boy, one of the iSport cars.
Let's have another look at it.
There's a replay. Timo Glock on the inside. PK Jr. out there almost getting into the back of Olivier Pla.
Oh, that's still going for these boys.
Yep. PK Jr. knows he has to come forward. He cannot throw away this opportunity.
But on the other hand, he doesn't have to do anything stupid to get around Olivier Pla, who is yet to stop.
That's assumed. There's Primat behind PK.
He's got to stay in front of him because he has stopped.
Olivier Pla damaged his wrist at the Monaco round in contact with the barrier, violated one of the first laws of an accident, which is get your hands off the wheel. Oh, Primat looking down the inside of PK and turns him.
And nudges him.
Yeah, he must have nudged PK
Just
Jr.
as Pla pits.
So Pla into the pits. Yeah, PK Jr. There must have been a little bit of contact there.
There was. You see PK slide off into the gravel. He must be pretty
Let's have a look at it from a different angle.
I think Pla was slowing for his pit entry, and that bottled up PK Jr. behind him. Primat saw his opening and went for it, and they got together.
Yeah, I think let's have another look. You watch Primat's front wing. We just lose it for the change of position.
Boy, and Primat was well over that curve. He couldn't sort of give him more room, really, I guess, if he tried, but it was a bit of a bottle-up job.
This was the shot.
Boy, oh boy, what?
Ooh, that'll do it.
That could have been a lot worse.
Exactly, it could have been a lot worse. I wonder if that damaged Primat's left front suspension anyway.
That was the kind of racing we expect from GP2. These kids are very, very aggressive. Having said kids, only 2 of them are teenagers. The rest in their 20s.
Yeah, pretty early 20s, most of them, except for Pantano, who's the ripe old age of 27.
You see a lot of contact in that corner. Back in 2002, before it was reprofiled, it was still fairly tight, and American Derek Hill, son of Phil Hill, driving in the old Formula 3000 series, was flipped on his head into the gravel trap, driving for the Durango team, which is an entrant here in the GP2 Championship. On board with Alex Negrão from PK Sports, up into second behind Lucas de Grassi. Timo Glock is third. We'll take a break and return with more. The GP2 race from Magny Cours. Welcome back to the GP2 series at Magny Cours in France on the French Formula 1 Grand Prix weekend. Bob Varsha, Steve Matchett, David Hobbs with you. The race leader is Lucas de Grassi, but both he and Alex Negrão in second still have to make their mandatory pit stop. That makes third place runner Timo Glock of Germany effectively the race leader elect, if you will. Alex Primat runs fourth, Nelson Piquet Jr. fifth after Primat just elbowed him aside in the final corners to take over that spot. Meanwhile, championship leader Lewis Hamilton continues to struggle. He has gotten around Frenchman Frank Pereira, but he is only up to 18th after having to make an early stop to repair some damage. Hernandez, Pantano, and Lopez. Sergio Hernandez, Giorgio Pantano, and Jose Maria Lopez, who started from pole in this race, currently running 6th, 7th, and 8th. Hernandez has a pit stop yet to make.
Lopez is obviously quicker than Pantano here. There's no doubt about it if he can get around him. But Lopez is the big loser in that mandatory pit stop. He started from pole, was leading easily, came in for his pit stop and dropped way back. Now he's in 8th spot. Obviously going to pick up a couple when de Grassi and Negrão drop.
We talked earlier about how the teams insist on changing only the rear tires, inducing so much understeer when the fronts wear out. Oh boy, oh boy. We also see that some of the teams just don't appear to be working on their pit stops because some pit stops take so long. The drivers lose all kinds of track position.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, for a driver, that's very frustrating. You work like heck to get those positions, and throw the whole thing away in a pit stop is very irritating, to say the least. Giorgio Pantano, boy, he's had a go at everything, hasn't he? Formula 1, Formula 3000, Champ Car, IRL, sort of, but 27, the old clock's ticking, I'm afraid. Oh, thinks about having to go around de Grassi. Hernandez, who's got to make a stop anyway.
Alex Negrão's second place car has pitted. We'll see where he comes back into the scheme of things. Lucas Di Grassi, the race leader, still has a stop to make as we work lap number 17 of 41. There's Lewis Hamilton in the ART Grand Prix car.
He's got a very good opportunity to overtake all those cars in front of him. He's a very good overtaker, Lewis Hamilton. He works his way through the field, and everybody in front of him is potentially a good bit slower than he is. His laps are much faster than theirs at the moment.
Oh, there's a good example of it right there.
Campos cars, Valles.
But this is not a good overtaking racetrack. As you can see, it moves too much.
Yeah.
He might have a go down going to Lycée, but he's already had one go at the Adelaide hairpin on the opening lap, which is why he's back where he is now, because he didn't work out quite right.
It's Olivier Pla ahead of him in the DPR car.
The problem with having to move down in Lycée, you're right, it's a dive down to the hill in that sharp right-hander and down the chicane, but those awful curbs are there to catch you out.
Yeah.
You have to be so pinpoint accurate to pull the move off. It's probably better to try the move down into the Adelaide hairpin, but as we've seen there too, it's so easy to get yourself in trouble.
McGraw rejoined in 8th. Sergio Hernandez has made his pit stop, so that will shuffle the order a bit more. Still waiting on race leader Luca Di Grassi.
Now we come to that long right-hander. This is the corner that loads the tyres up, and it's so easy there. You want to use all the track open to you, but you pinch just a little bit too much of that curb.
Now Hamilton's really got to get under the tail of Pla here if he wants to overtake him into
down the Adelaide.
Yeah, he's just a bit far back, I think.
Yeah, plus Pla moves to the middle of the road, takes the line away. On board with Hernandez.
So now he's got to wait for another lap. Hernandez on board with.
So he has come back from his pit stop right in the middle of all this. Let's see if Hamilton is setting something up here. And then he has to look down the inside, but as you pointed out, David, that's a very tough place to pass someone if you haven't got a huge speed differential.
He needs to be close to Pla as they come around this last right-hander onto the corner before Lycée, because he's got to get him on the first part of Lycée. He's nobody trying to overtake him through all those curves and chicane. He needs to come out of here well.
Let's look at the running order. Hamilton has a shot at 4 cars ahead of him, but beginning with Clivio Piccioni, it's a big 5-second gap up to Michael Ammermuller in 13th. Lucas Di Grassi, I'm afraid, is tossing his race away here. He's only got a 5-second gap, nowhere near enough to get his pit stop done without giving up the lead, probably falling back as far as 6th or 7th, so he can still score points, but the longer he waits for that pit stop, unless he's got huge speed in hand, it's really going to be tough. Probably ought to think about leaving himself some time to make up ground on fresh rubber after the stop. Nelson Piquet Jr., huge lockup with the left front down, it looks like in the Adelaide hairpin. Man, he completely overshot that corner.
Yeah, and flat spot of the tire, which would be uncomfortable for the rest of the race.
I wonder if his brakes are going away or something. This is 5th and 6th. Giorgio Pantano in red and white, and Jose Maria Lopez in the Supernova car.
Both pole sitters here. Lopez this year, Pantano in 2003.
Across the start-finish line they go to begin another lap. Just about halfway through the race. We'll take a break and return with more from the GP2 feature at Magny Cours.
How you feel?
Working lap number 22 of 41, Lewis Hamilton continues to battle with Olivier Pla over 16th place.
Boy, if he gets around him, he'll pull away at about a second and a half a lap, because they're both doing the high 29s, low 30s, and the leaders are doing 28s, which is what Hamilton's capable of doing. But of course, you can't get around him, and Olivier Pla knows it. And Olivier Pla is quicker off this corner for some reason or other than Hamilton, which ruins the next overtaking opportunity right here. He always gets there well up front.
It is, yeah. What Hamilton's doing, and he shouldn't really be doing, he needs to take care. He's getting too close to Pla all the while, and the air is coming off the front wing and is destroying those tyres. The car's starting to move around a lot at the front over the last couple of laps. as he keeps trying to get very, very close to par to make the move work, but it's not coming off.
This is the frustrating bit. He's much quicker through that curve grande and through here.
See, look at the car giving up now.
But it is washing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Approaching the Adelaide hairpin. 1 lap ago at this point. Hamilton made a lunge. Let's see if he tries it here. No, he's nowhere near close enough. Let's take a look at what happened 1 lap ago at that same corner.
Well, he came off Estoril so much quicker, and but Olivier Pla was clever and blocked the inside. He tried to go underneath him, but he didn't, and he whipped his front wing off instead.
He did nearly rip the right front wing off, but I think really that was Hamilton's best chance. There was a couple of laps ago when the tyres were in better condition.
Look how much quicker he is to that 180 degree, always much quicker, but loses a bit on the off. He's probably taking it a bit too tight, which is making it difficult for him to exit the corner quickly.
I think he's geared wrong or something.
Yeah.
Just doesn't seem to have the jump off the corner that his rival does.
Now this is where he needs to be closer, but for some reason or other, off this corner here, he's just not quite as quick as Ply. See, no way you're going to make up that ground.
Now, while all this is going on, Lucas Di Grassi of Italy remains the race leader, but he still has to make his pit stop. The only car, excuse me, from Brazil, the only car who has not yet made his mandatory stop. Racing in front of the Formula One team managers. Everyone wants to do well. There he is. That's the battle for first. That's Timo Glock behind him in the blue and red car. Di Grassi is a Renault development driver. So he'll be looking to follow young Finn Heikki Kovalainen, last year's title runner-up, who is now testing for the Renault team. Two other graduates of last year's series. Nico Rosberg, the champion, is now racing for Williams Cosworth in Formula One. And of course, Scott Speed of the United States, who raced with iSport in GP2, is now driving the Scuderia Toro Rosso Grand Prix car. Giorgio Mondini in this series is doing some test driving with the Midland team. So there's plenty of opportunity in GP2.
Look at Hamilton now, way off where he was before on the back of Pla.
Bring young American driver Graham Rahal, doing really well in the Champ Car Atlantics this year. Son of Bobby Rahal, hopes to be a GP2 driver next year en route to Formula One. This is for the lead.
Timo Glock's in a rock and a hard place here. He doesn't particularly have to get around Di Grassi because he knows that Di Grassi is going to have to stop, but he also doesn't want Di Grassi holding him up because Primat is right behind him.
Yeah, you're right. Glock's trying to force the issue a little bit now. He's more worried about Primat behind. He knows that Di Grassi is pretty much dead in the water.
Which is why Di Grassi is holding him up now because... Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there's Di Grassi's crew in the pit lane.
I don't quite know what he was saying. How would you make that strategy work? I don't understand it.
Exactly, and there he is letting Glock go by because Alex Primat is rapidly closing from behind. There is the Frenchman. Behind him, Nelson Piquet Jr., then Giorgio Pantano, Jose Maria Lopez, our pole sitter, Alex Negrão, Hiroki Yoshimoto, and Ferdinando Manfredini.
Di Grassi pits.
Now let's see if we watch a pit stop. No, I guess we won't. Well, here we go. Let's see how the crew attacks this. See how proficient they are at making the pit stop. Is that the ART team in the pit lane? Or that might have been the DAMS squad. Now this looks fairly competent.
Oh,
that was good.
Boy, this is a...
That other group was for Frank Pereira, currently 18th. Well, just when I wanted to see a Chinese fire drill, I don't get one.
No. Sorry, Bob.
So Glock now officially in the lead of the pace.
Timo Glock, another driver familiar to American fans.
Primat, big luck up there as he tries to take the fight to Glock.
Formula One experience, podium in Champ Cars with the Rocket Sports team. Oh, is it Hamilton and Pla? Looks like, did Pla make a mistake? I saw a lot of blue tire smoke in the air, but I don't know who it belonged to.
Let's have a look from the onboard camera.
Well, it's going into that 180-degree corner where Hamilton has been quicker all the time, has that tight line. Pla goes wide.
Yep. I think
Hamilton
we know now
finally
who it
gets around him. So let's see how much ground Hamilton puts between himself and Pla on this next lap. I would estimate about 1.5 seconds, probably.
He saw that tire smoke, but none of it from the rear, so a lot of forward brake bias on Pla's car, and he locked up the fronts. Again, going back to that nobody changes the front tires issue.
But it takes so long to change the rear, so it's certainly not going to change all four.
Well, I wonder if these cars are so tail happy that you wouldn't want to just change the front. Or maybe change left side tires on a track like this. On board with Alex Negrão, currently 6th. It's the run down to Adelaide. Lucas de Grassi rejoins in 7th spot behind Alex Negrão. So the order is Glock, Primat, Piquet Jr., Pantano, Lopez, Negrão, de Grassi, Yoshimoto, Monfordini, and Neil Yanni. Young Swiss into 10th spot. Followed by Ernesto Vizo, Michael Ammermuller, Clivio Piccioni, Baez, Hernandez, and then Lewis Hamilton in 16th now, having gotten around Olivier Pla.
Well, El Lopez is giving Pantano a very, very hard time.
Yeah.
Again, if he gets around him, he'll pull away. Ooh, Pantano locks up there.
He is. He's pressuring.
He came off. Lopez is coming off here pretty tight behind him. Maybe have a chance down to Lice. Although Pantano already getting well out to the middle of the road there. Boy, he keeps flat spotting those tires, though. So it's going to be getting more and more and more uncomfortable for Pantano.
And Lopez, again, just like the problem we saw with Hamilton, is going to, if he wants to do it, he's got to make it quick. A lap, 2 laps most, because other than that, if you get too close to the car in front, you're going to put such loading onto those tires as they're scrubbing along the track there. Let's have another look at this.
Pantano goes well wide. He gets it all the way up on the curbing. No, and again, down in Adelaide.
Again. Oh, Lopez got down inside. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be... No!
Oh, man.
Down to the chicane. I'm going to try it.
Oh, not there. Please.
Oh!
Pantano caught watching his mirrors.
You're going to have to yield position, son. You're not going to be able to maintain
the officials will do it for you.
The lead position in that battle.
Wow. Not giving up either of them.
Well, if I was Lopez's engineers, I'd be on the phone right now.
Well, I expect you will, but if you're Pantano, you're going to hang on until somebody absolutely tells you you're going to go by.
See this black flag, son?
Look at that. His tires must be just rooted at the front. That steering wheel must be flopping around his hand like a dead fish. Or a half dead fish.
Dead fish don't flop.
But you know what I mean, a dying fish.
How about a nice lively one? This fish is dead.
Therefore, it is not flapping.
Like the famous parrot. Well, no sign of a flag from the stand. No threat to Giorgio Pantano yet. We'll take a break. Down to 13 laps remaining. The opening race of the GP2 weekend in France. Stay with us. Here's your top 4, and there, the next 4. Welcome back to the Circuit Nevers Magny Cours in France. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, Steve Matchett with you. 12 laps remaining in this opening race of the GP2 weekend. All the cars have made their mandatory pit stops. And we're watching a terrific battle. Giorgio Pantano.
He keeps locking them up,
Keeps torturing those Bridgestones. And yet, the man behind him, Jose Maria Lopez, cannot take advantage. I wonder if Lopez has tire problems of his own.
I don't know, but they can't be anything like the ones that Pantano's got on his fronts. I mean, he just locks them up every corner practically.
Is that Negrão coming up from behind? So Zandy Negrão can catch up. He might have something to say about this. Lucas de Grassi, the Brazilian who led much of the race and made his pit stop, actually is currently 6th. So he's in a position to pick up some points despite waiting as the last man to make his mandatory stop. Fernando Manfredini is 7th. Hiroki Hashimoto, whoops, is now bumped back to 9th.
Lopez had a little look down the inside and the run down towards Adelaide, but it was more a token than anything. He was never going to make that work.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
How much rubber is left on those tires?
Lopez goes very wide on the way in there too, getting out into all that rolled up rubber and clag that was lying out there. But he's right behind him again.
So the order is Glock, Primat, Piquet Jr., Pantano, Lopez, Negrão, de Grassi, Manfredini, who got around Hashimoto for 8th. That will put the Italian on pole for tomorrow's sprint race, all things considered.
I think Lopez's strategy now is not to overtake, but just really to force the effort, force him off the track.
He's got to be careful.
Yeah, done it.
There it is.
All right. Well, Alex Negrão is closing quickly, as you see. He'll be the next nightmare for Giorgio Pantano.
Now, I think through these next 2 corners, Lopez will be a good bit quicker.
There's another view. Close, but fair.
Thank goodness Pantano recognized when it was too late. Goose was cooked. So many people close the door when it's all too late, and then of course cry foul for the guy that was doing the overtaking.
Lopez hugged the corner, though, went over the inside curb to avoid contact. There's the race leader, Timo Glock. 2.5 seconds in hand over Alex Primat. Piquet Jr. another 11 seconds up the road. So Glock rocketing away. His last lap at 28.7. It's about half a second quicker than anyone else able to manage.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton still down there in 16th spot, uncharacteristically slow. His last lap was a 31.9 as opposed to Glock's 28.7. I'm still wondering if Hamilton, in fact, he's had 1 stop. If he didn't change tyres on that stop, he's going to have to come in anyway. And that may explain why he's so slow. His tyres are rooted.
That's Hamilton up ahead on the road.
It was difficult to see from the camera shot when Hamilton came in for that nose change, because just at the point where the nose was changed, we lost the shot. So I don't think they did change tyre.
Well, it means he'll have to come in and make that stop, maybe saving it to the end in order to use the fresh rubber to pick up that bonus point for fast lap, but he will sacrifice track position.
See, Hamilton is only just in front of Olivier Pallard, who he fought like heck to get by, and there's no way that Hamilton would be down here. His tyres have got to be absolutely rooted.
He would start, as things currently stand, he would start 21st tomorrow in all likelihood. So that should make for an interesting sprint race. Pantano continues to lay down.
Pantano seemed to be more concerned something down in the cockpit. He seemed to be his head down looking inside the car as opposed to
I think he's trying to keep his head out of smoke.
Good run for native Frenchman Alex Primat in front of his home fans. Nelson Piquet Jr., it appears, will make the podium and gain some points on Hamilton for the championship, but
Alexander Primat qualified on the pole for this feature race last year, but did not have a particularly good day.
Piquet Jr. has to be rueing the fact that he wasn't able to get the win, but he's well behind the front-running Timo Glock, so perhaps it was never on the cards. Negrão looking for a couple of more points if he can get around Pantano in the remaining 8 laps. Negrão being Nelson Piquet Jr.'s teammate. He can also help their team, Piquet Sports, in the championship. They desperately need to close up on the dominant ART Grand Prix team.
Pantano must be having a problem with his car. Obviously, we can see he's got a problem with the smoke. But normally speaking, I'd have expected him to be a good bit quicker than Negrão.
On that lap, it was come down on the dive down to Adelaide. It was the rear tyres locking up, wasn't it? So I'm guessing that he keeps winding the brake bias further and further back. Bob, you were suggesting earlier on probably brake problems for these guys, and I guess that's what they're doing, is winding the brake bias back to try and preserve the front brakes, as it really is very heavy braking around that track, down into that Adelaide hairpin. Perhaps they're running out of brakes.
And Hamilton here has got to be having a problem with his car, whether his tyres are shot. No, that's not Hamilton, but if his tyres are shot, because his laps are desperate.
Well, only a matter of time here when McGraw makes the move.
McGraw not known for his cool head. The sun beating down on it today, bringing the temperature.
What are you suggesting?
Okay.
Gets a nice view of himself on the big screen at start-finish. Pantano doing a great job to hang on to it. That long Estoril right-hander. And down the straight to the hairpin. We'll take a break and return with more. The laps trickling away here. GP2 main event from Magny Cours. Welcome back. 5 laps remaining in the opening race of the GP2 weekend on the French Grand Prix weekend at Magny Cours in France. You're watching a battle for position. Neil Yanni in 10th, trying to hold off Ernesto Vizo for the spot. But moments ago, we watched Neil Yanni going through the Estoril corner. Watch that left front tire.
Look at the movement there.
Huge understeer, and then the tire just starts to flex back and forth.
It's got to be low pressure, isn't it, Steve? I mean, to move that far on the rim. Look at it.
Well, we do see tyres move on the rim, yeah, but this is excessive.
Yeah, I would say.
My concern is that we see this. It can be confusing with the camera shot. We've seen this before in the Formula 1 tyres, where you see movement on the rim and you wonder whether or not it's a sidewall flexion or if it's a trick of the camera. But it does seem to be a problem with the car, definitely.
He's got huge understeer,
Yeah.
but yeah, then the left flexed a lot more than the right, unless it was an optical illusion, as you suggest. But we see the young Swiss having problem after problem at corner after like that, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't get it stopped, he can't get it to turn, and he somehow keeps Vizo behind him. This is Lopez has caught Piquet Jr. This is for the final spot on the podium. I wonder if the Brazilian has a problem.
Well, he was a long way behind. He dropped back big time from Primat. It's 13, nearly 40. Here he goes.
Look at this. Oh.
Careful, boys, careful.
Oh, there it is.
Wow.
That is for
was
the podium. Wow, what a great pass.
How they pulled that off, I don't know.
Oh, boy, and that's more points that Piquet Jr. could have used since his rival Lewis Hamilton is back in 17th now. Pla has gotten back around Hamilton. There's the order. The top 8, remember, they'll be reversed for the top 8 positions on the grid in Sunday's sprint finale. But you're right, David. Piquet Jr. lost a lot of time. In just about 4 laps, he lost 2 seconds to Alex Primat in second.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly he's like 15 and a half seconds, 16 seconds behind Primat. Now, of course, he's...
Hamilton still has not made that tire change. If we're reading the rule book right, he made an early stop for crash damage, and we don't think he changed tires, which is required. There's another look at that pass.
How these two didn't touch wheels there. They didn't touch, let alone get them all locked up.
Look at this shot here. I mean, they're interlocked.
The shades of the Formula 1 race a couple of years ago when Rubens Barrichello, then in a Ferrari, passed Jarno Trulli's Renault for the final spot on the podium in the French Grand Prix. Really put the final nail in the coffin for Jarno Trulli, who left the Renault team shortly thereafter to join Toyota. Three laps to go. Giorgio Pantano doing a great defensive job here. He gave up a spot here and there, but he's had a terrible time controlling that car.
Boy, he's been on defensive mode all afternoon, hasn't he? as has Hamilton after that first lap fracas. Made a poor start, got himself down the field, tried to pick it up again at the Adelaide hairpin. And of course, has suffered ever since. And I can only assume he's got something wrong with the car.
There goes Negrão underneath Pantano, who left the door open. So that's for 5th.
Well, that'll help pick up some of the points that Nelson Piquet just lost. Nelson Piquet Jr. just lost for the team, so Negrão picking up some points.
There it is.
Ooh. Pantano left plenty of room.
Yep.
Thought he was going to get round the inside. You see, he thinks he's going to be able to retake him here, but it doesn't work out that way.
Well, that was a slash by Negrão. One of those last-minute decisions you don't have time to think about.
No.
All things considered, looking at the field, the stability of the cars, I'm actually pretty impressed at how well balanced they've remained throughout this race. I expect to see a lot of understeer on the cars around here, but again, with only 2 laps to go, we've had that tyre change, but they're not working bad at all. Well, all bar that dodgy left front there.
Oh! Michael Ammermuller and Clivio Piccioni. And there was contact there. Look at the nose on Piccioni's car. Got him in the right rear tire, I believe. This is for 12th. About 3 seconds behind Ernesto Vizo in 11th. Almost a full minute behind the race leader.
Lewis Hamilton's lost another spot now to Javier Villa.
Those tires have got to be completely gone. I can't believe he hasn't stopped. That's Neil Yanni. Is now running, dropping to 15th. The Swiss is dropping through the field like a stone right now.
Well, it can't be a pressure problem, but I wonder whether or not they're having construction problems with the side loading going around through Estoril and the Grand Curve, whether or not it's just starting to break the laminations up on the inside of the sidewall. That's the problem. But that should be a concern for everybody. Again, they're all on the same spec tire.
Final lap for Timo Glock.
Spec car, spec tire, spec everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So really, the cars should be pretty evenly matched.
As things stand, this will be the first victory for Timo Glock. It was on the podium at Silverstone in the Saturday main event. That was his previous best coming into France. The German has raced all manner of open wheel cars. Didn't quite need to do that with 6.5 seconds in hand over Alex Premat.
Is that Lewis Hamilton he's about to catch up and pass?
How about that?
This is not what Lewis Hamilton...
Is that what it's... Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what the officials have to say about Lewis Hamilton's race, because we've checked and he has not made a tire change. He did make the stop after that crash damage, but did not change tires. So he may find himself starting dead last in the field. Who knows? We'll find out when they run the sprint race on Sunday. Final corners for German Timo Glock, who picks up his first career GP2 victory in front of the Formula One teams at Magny Cours in France. Big win for iSport International in the team competition. And he is a happy fella. Sitting very, very low in that car, noticeably lower than some of the other drivers. Local favorite Alex Premat finishes second, about 6 seconds in arrears. Jose Maria Lopez, our pole sitter, will come home in third. Nelson Piquet Jr. fourth. And Alex Negrão fifth.
His teammate. So Lopez, you know, had a very bad stop. He was in the lead, had a long stop, dropped him way back, and I mean he just fought every inch of the way back to that third spot. So Lopez definitely had a tough race today and came out well on the podium.
Boy, everybody had a tough race today. 95-degree temperatures. A very, very difficult handling situation for all of these cars on a common Bridgestone tire. But a good day for Timo Glock. We'll be back in a moment with the podium ceremonies from France, so stay with us. There is Timo Glock, who climbs the podium, looking a little like a cross between Max Pappas and Tony Stewart up there. But either way, a big win for his iSport team, their first ever in a Saturday main event.
Timo Glock.
And a nice round of applause. Flags coming down quickly. Hurry up, boys. We got to get on to the next thing. There you go.
Just over an hour's work in that very, very hot sunshine. Primat coming through to second, and of course Lopez, who started on the pole, had that terrible pit stop which dropped him right back to the field, and he fought every inch of the way to get back at least onto the podium. So
Alex Primat in second place. Will do him some good in the championship. He was third coming in, but you have 10 points behind Nelson Piquet Jr. He won't make it all up, but he will make some of that up.
There's Rene Arnoux giving the prize out there to Lopez.
Former Formula One driver for Ferrari and Renault factory team.
I co-drove with Rene Arnoux at Watkins Glen, God knows how many years ago, in a Ferrari.
Rene still looks pretty fit, so it looks like he hasn't changed the sartorial standards common among Formula One drivers.
No, which is very poor, to say the least.
The golf shirt. Hey, Rene, you want to give away the...
His stomach has grown somewhat, but not as much as somebody else's, I could mention.
Yeah, that's true. There goes Rene. A big day for our podium. We'll take a break and return. Back at Magny Cours, the GP2 weekend continues here on Speed. First, let's take a look at the results of Saturday's main event. A big win for Timo Glock and the iSport team.
Absolutely, their first ever win in 2 seasons. Alex Primat, last year's successful driver, comes second in the ART car. Then the supernova of Maria Lopez, who started on the pole. Then the 2 PK sports cars helping their quest for points a lot. Giorgio Pantano having a good run there on his return. Lucas Di Grassi, Fernandino Monfordini, and Yoshimoto finishing in 9th spot.
A little bit further down the running order, Ernesto Viso in the iSport car finishing 10th, behind him in 11th. Neil Yanni in the Arden, right just in front of his teammate Michael Ammer-Muller.
Now you see the last page coming down. Lewis Hamilton, who started on the 2nd row, look at that, finish down in 19th spot. Terrible day for him and Adam Carroll.
Now let's take a look at the highlights of Sunday's sprint race to wrap up the weekend. Fernando Manfredini starts from pole as the top 8 are inverted. Lucas Di Grassi and Giorgio Pantano there. Down in turn 1, Nelson Piquet Jr. and Alex Primat touch. That's the white car of Frenchman Primat into the gravel in a big way.
Boy, it is a big time. Look at he kept through the gravel, comes back on the track, which I think upsets the field. Look at Ernesto Viso and Yoshimoto colliding, sliding across the gravel. And that, then there's a touch there. Monfordini in the 14 car, into the gravel, boom, into the tyre wheel, whips off the wheel. You can see a replay. He got touched by Pantano, who's rushing through the field. End of the day for Monfordini.
Then Giorgio Pantano starts to come to the fore, taking over Di Grassi on lap number 3. A little later, Piquet Jr. also making the move on Di Grassi as the big hitters start to move forward. Then Lewis Hamilton started 19th. He also comes to the fore. Di Grassi dropping further and further back.
With just 8 laps to go, a lot of smoke here from Hamilton's teammate Alex Primat as he takes the final podium position from yesterday's winner, Timo Glock. Then Pantano will hold off Piquet for the first ever win for Fisichella Motorsports And of course, a return to the top step of the podium for Pantano, who won the Formula 3000 race here in 2003.
And there was much celebrating. There is Giancarlo Fisichella from the Formula One Renault team celebrating his first win as a team owner in this series. Pantano, of course, delighted to be back atop the podium, even though he was shorter than his two rivals. Here's a look at the final results. A big win for Pantano, an important points race for Nelson Piquet Jr. in his quest to catch Lewis Hamilton.
Absolutely, and Alex Premat the same, trying to catch his teammate, Timo Glock there, who won the main race on Saturday, finishing up in 4th. Hamilton having a great run through the 5th. Lucas de Grassi there finishing in 6th. Neil Yanni in the Arden and Michael Mueller still finishing together like they did yesterday. And Olivier Pla there for the Dave Price Racing.
A little bit further down the order there, Corrado Fuzzi in the Supin over 15th. Jason Taccini and the FMS car 17th.
Adam Carroll not having a very good day, nor did Jimmy Bruni. And Maria Lopez, who finished on the pole yesterday, not doing a good run.
Here's a look at the Drivers' Championship after 13 of the 21 rounds. Lewis Hamilton leading away.
Still picks up more points, picking up points for 5th today, and of course a point for the fastest lap yesterday. Alex Premat, his teammate, down there in 3rd spot. Timo Glock, of course, coming right into the picture there in 4th spot now. Viso, Michael Mueller, who started the season so well. Nicolas Lapierre having a terrible time, as is Adam Carroll. Giorgio Pantano obviously leaping into the frame there with 16 points. Clivio Piccioni with 11.
And now the team championship early in the second half. Steve?
Well, there they are, look, right out in front. ART Grand Prix, they were in over the hundreds before they came into this event, and there they are, 118 points, well ahead of PK Sports. Though PK Sports having a pretty good run there in 64th. In 3rd position, iSport International, Arden in 4th, Trident in 5th with 26. And a little bit further down the order there, Dams 13, and poor old Durango down there in 13th spot, only 5 points on the board.
So on a wild weekend at Magny Cours, Lewis Hamilton makes the best of a tough situation and loses 5 points off of his lead. It'll be 14 going to the next round, and we hope you'll join us for that. That'll wrap up the GP2 weekend at Magny Cours, but don't touch that remote. Coming up, live coverage of the Formula One French Grand Prix from Magny Cours. For David Hobbs, Steve Matchett, and Peter Windsor, I'm Bob Barsha. Stay tuned. Coming up next, the French Formula One Grand Prix from Magny Cours.